So, yung topic namin is leading and managing change through employee involvement.
So what is change management and leading change management? Change management is a term used to describe significant alteration to an existing business model, philosophy, or business approach designed to improve a company's overall operations. So, change management ay ang pagbabago ng mga process, approach, model para mas mapaganda ang performance ng isang business. Kung halimbawa mong may mali sa business mo, syempre, babaguhin mo yun. Kasi para rin naman yung sa ikaunlad ng business mo. Example, ang business mo ay cosmetics at mababa ang sales mo. Siyempre, isipin mo as an entrepreneur kung anong mali at babaguhin mo yun. Kung may mali sa formula, sa packaging, or sa mismo operation ng business mo, syempre, babaguhin mo yun. Isang target mo ay magpataas ang sales mo. In other words, change management is for the betterment of the business. So, leading change management involves providing subordinates with a clear vision of why change is required, the way change is going to be implemented, and the anticipated results. So, leading change management naman ay yung paiintimbo sa mga employees mo kung bakit kailangan nyo ng pagbabago para makasabay na rin sila at para mas ma-motivate sila na abutin yung goal ng business mo. Kasi kung bigla ka lang magbabago at hindi alam ng subordinates mo ang dahilan, maaaring maguluhan sila or mag-create ito ng confusion na maaari ring makabawas sa kanilang performance at as employees. So, next.
So, ito yung overview of change activities. So, figure 10.1, nandito yung mga activities contributing to effective change management na i-discuss sa mga susunod na slides. Number 1 po is motivating change. Organizational change involves moving from the known to the unknown. So, dahil sa yung future is uncertain, pwede ito makaapekto sa people's competencies and worth and coping abilities. So, organizations tend to be heavily invested in the status quo and they resist changing it in the face of uncertain future benefits. And the key issue in planning for action is how to motivate commitment to organizational change. So, makikita dun sa figure 10.1, it requires attention to two related tasks. Number 1 is yung creating readiness for change. So one of the more fundamental axioms of OD is that people's readiness for change depends on creating a felt for change. So this involves making people so dissatisfied with the status quo that they are motivated to try new work processes, technologies, or ways of behaving. So, ang sinasabi lang dito, if hindi ready yung tao and organization sa pagbabago or sa change, hindi magkakaroon ng meaningful na pagbabago. So, meron tatlong methods that can help generate sufficient dissatisfaction to produce change. Number 1, sensitize organization to pressures for change. So, bago pa raw matrigger yung pressure sa change, the organization must be sensitive. The organization can make themselves more sensitive to pressures for change by encouraging leaders to surround themselves with devil's advocates, and by cultivating external networks that compromise people and organizations with different perspective or views. Number 2 is reveal discrepancies between current and desired states. So in this approach to generating a felt for change, informations about the organization current functioning is gathered and compared with desired states of operation. So itong mga desired states may include organizational goals at saka yung mga standards as well as yung mga general visions of a more desirable future states. And yung last, convey credible positive expectation for the change. So expectation can play an important role in generating motivation for change. So yung expectation, pwede rin siya mag-serve as self-fulfilling prophecy. Ibig sabihin, pag yung member nag-expect ng change, mas magkakaroon ng greater commitment sa change process. Pangalawang task is overcoming resistance to change. At a personal level, change can arouse considerably anxiety about letting go of the known and moving to an uncertain future. So dito, yung meaning nun is hindi sure yung mga tao kung yung existing skills nila and contribution is more value in the future. Sa organizational level naman, may tatlong sources sa resistance to change. Number one is technical resistance. So it comes from the habit of following common procedures and consideration of sunk cost invest in status quo. Number two is political resistance. So dito, mag-a-arise lang ito kung yung organizational changes threaten powerful stakeholders katulad ng mga executive staff or yung mga staff personnel. And last is yung cultural resistance. So it takes from a form of system and procedures and reinforce the status quo, promoting conformity to existing values, norms, and assumption about how things should operate. And merong tatlo ditong major strategies for dealing with resistance. Number one, empathy and support. So, ito yung first step sa pag-overcome ng resistance. Ito yung learning how people are experiencing change. So, yung strategy na to, dito ma-identify kung sino yung mga taong nagkakaroon ng problema sa pag-accept ng mga changes. Active listening demands a willingness to suspend judgment and see situation from another's perspective. Number two, communication. So communication is important. Effective communication about changes can reduce speculation and ally. So makakatulong din to para sa mga members na makapag-prepare for changes. And yung last, participation and involvement. So ito yung one of the oldest and most effective strategies for overcoming resistance. Yung pag-involve ng members directly doon sa pag-implement ng changes.
So, creating vision. It's a vision of what members want the organization to look like or become. It is one of the most popular yet least understood practices in management. Creating a vision is considered a key element in most leadership frameworks. Developing a vision is heavily driven by people's values and preference for what the organization should look like and how it should function. So, creating a vision, ito ay isa mga pinakamahalagang key element sa leadership framework. Ito ay ang pagbibigay natin sa employees ng vision kung ano nga ba ang dapat nilang i-aim bilang member ng organization. Next. Describing the core ideology. It describes the organization's core values and purpose and its relatively stable over time. Core values are not espoused values. They are the values in use. Thus, core values are not determined or designed, are discovered and described through a process of inquiry. The organization's core purpose is its reason for being, the idealistic motivation that brings people to work each day and gives work meaning. Describing core ideology, ito ay ang pag-describe sa core values ng isang organization, pati na rin ang purpose ng organization, especially in the near future. Next. Constructing the envisioned future. The envisioned future typically includes the following two elements that can be communicated to organization members. 1. Bold and valued outcomes. 2. Desired future state. So, constructing envisioned future, ano nga ba ang future? Kaya kinakailangan natin ng changes. Ito ay kadalasan naglalaman ng 1. Bold and valued outcomes. Ito ay mga desired outcomes natin. Siyempre, dapat ito ay malinaw at realistic. Dapat measurable din ito para mas malaman natin kung paano natin ito makamit. Pangalawa, desired future state. Kung ano nga ba ang mga goal mong changes na gusto mong ma-achieve in the future. Next.
So yung next is developing political support.
Change management is about politics in organization. In organization, power and influence are important among organization members when striving from the resource and carry out their job successfully. To be successful, the change effort must get full support from all key stakeholders to avoid political conflict and struggles. Next. Tapos yung next po is assessing change agent's power. Meron siyang tatlong key source for personal power in organization. Yung una is yung knowledge. Base of power include having expertise that is valued by other and controlling important information. OD professionals typically gain power through their experience in organization change. Sunod naman is yung personality. Personality source of power can derive from change against charismatic reputation and professional credibility. Then yung panghuli naman is other support. Other support can contribute to individual's power by providing access to information and resource network. Next. Next naman is yung identifying stakeholders. Those stakeholders can throw or support change is also important to identify the external stakeholders. Ibig sabihin, yung tinatawag na stakeholders, sila yung may mga mataas na level sa organization. Kagaya nung staff group, union, departmental managers, and top-level executives. Tapos, yung influencing naman, stakeholders, there's activity involving against the support of key stakeholders to motivate a critical mass for change. Ibig sabihin, kung makuha natin yung stakeholders para dun sa change natin, parang mas makaka-influence sila dun sa mga members natin kasi sila yung pwedeng magbigay ng information about change na pwedeng mangyari sa organization natin. Tapos, meron namang 3 major strategies for using power to influence other in OD. Yung una is playing straight is very consistent with an OD perspective, and those is the most wisely used power strategy in OD. It is involved determining the needs of particular stakeholders and presenting information about how to change can benefits them. Sunod naman, strategy using social networks. It's more foreign to OD and involves forming alliance and coalition with other powerful individuals and groups, dealing directly with key decision makers and using formal and informal contact to gain information. Then yung third naman is going around the formal system. It is probably least used in OD and involving possibly circumventing organizational structure and procedure to get the change made. Existing organizational arrangement can be roadblock to change and working around the barriers by the more expertise and effective than taking the time and energy to remove them.
Managing transition. So implementing organization change involves moving from an existing organization state to a desired user state, meaning it helps employees to make a difficult process less stressful and distracting for everyone. So there are 4 activities and structures to facilitate organizational transition. So the first activity is activity planning. Sinasabi dito, dapat daw ay clearly identify, temporarily orient,
integrate discrete change tasks. It should explicitly link this task to the organization change goals and priorities. So, ito po, nandiyan yung example ng organization change. Meron din important feature ang activity planning. That is visions and desired future. As a result, it may be necessary to supplement them with midpoint goals as part of the activity plan. So, ang sinasabi dito midpoint goals is yung long-term goals or winning goal ng isang organization. Magagamit mo rin ito to provide members with the direction and security they need to work. Next activity is commitment planning. So dito naman, it involves identifying key people and groups whose commitment is needed for change to occur and formulating a strategy for gaining their support. So, ang commitment planning is generally part of developing political support as we discussed earlier. So, the identifying key stakeholder and obtaining their commitment to change need to be made early in the change process. Next, change management structures. So dito naman, include people who have the power to mobilize resources, respect of the system leadership, change advocates, interpersonal and political skills to guide the change process. So there are alternative management structures. The first one, ang sinasabi dyan ay yung chief executive or head person ang magmamanage ng change effort. Second one, a project manager temporarily is assigned to coordinate the transition. Next, steering committee of representatives from the major constituents involved in the change jointly manage the project. Next, kung dun sa isa ay may steering committee, dito naman natural leaders who have the confidence and trust of large member has to manage the transition. Next, a cross-section of people representing different organizational functions and levels manage the change. And the last one, a teaching cabinet representing people whom the chief executive consults with and confides in managing the change effort. Ang sinasabi nito, teaching cabinet is an informal group of advisors such as the head of government. And the last activity is learning process. So this process involves the acquisition of new knowledge and skills that support new behaviors. According to the research center, this suggests that change can be implemented more quickly when leaders consciously design learning process into the transition. So there are 4 practices supported by a continuous dialogue and conversation process. The first one is creating a system view of the organization. So ang sinasabi nito, you need to create a model of work and change that allows individuals to see their efforts contribute to organizational functioning and performances. Second one is creating shared meaning. So, sa pamamagitan ng paggawa ng common ways of viewing the change, work customers, and new organization, people will develop a shared view of the new reality. The third one, engaging in after-action reviews or other processes that reflect on experience. So in this activity, initial attempts to try out new activities, process, or behaviors are assessed and reviewed. And the last one, decentralizing implementation, processes, and decisions to the lowest levels possible in the organization. In short, you can call it you can call it also as local self-design. So it is important in this process to ensure that the organizational units have a clear understanding of their boundaries. Next,
Now we proceed to sustaining momentum. Once organization changes are underway, explicit attention must be directed to sustaining energy and commitment for implementing them. In general, for me, changes is important for innovation, or changes lead to innovation. If a certain members of a leaders of an organization reach the goal of changes for innovative purposes, kailangan na pagtuunan yung purpose which is sustaining energy and commitment for implementing them. Next is providing resources for change. Implementing organization change generally requires additional financial and human resources. Kailangan mag-provide ng additional na financial at human resource pag nagkaroon o nagpatupad ng pagbabago sa isang organization. Extra resources are needed for such change activities as training, consultation, data collection, feedback, and special meeting. Nakakatulong din ito to provide buffer as performance drop during transition period. Unless these extra resources are planned for and provided, meaningful changes is less likely to occur. Next, building a support system for change agent. Organization change can be difficult and filled with tension. They often give member emotional support, but they may receive little support themselves. They often must maintain psychological distance from others to gain the perspective needed to lead the change process. A support system typically consists of network of people with whom the change agent has close personal relationship. Yun nga, as leaders, giving emotional support to members will make them more motivated and efficient at work. Next is developing new competency skill. Organizational changes frequently demand new knowledge, skills, and behavior from organizational member. Change agent must ensure that such learning occurs. Ang organization ay nagkakaroon ng pagbabago. Dapat yung member ng organization ay marunong mag-adapt sa changes. For example, manager ako ng isang organization. Para ma-implement yung pagbabago ay kailangang umisip ako ng new leadership style at new approaches para mas madaling masolve yung problema. Kasi kung walang pagbabagong mangyayari sa akin as manager, hindi mag-grow ang organization. Next is reinforcing new behavior. One of the most effective ways to sustain momentum for change is to reinforce the kind of behaviors needed to implement the change. The organization encouraged more teamwork by designing a rewards and recognition program in which the best team player got both financial rewards and management attention, and a variety of behaviors aimed to promoting self-interest were directly discouraged. Dahil sa reward na mas gaganahan mag-work as teamwork, mawawala na yung old behavior nila na self-interest. Next is staying the course. There are two primary reasons that managers do not keep a steady focus on change implementation. First is, many managers fail to anticipate decline in performance, productivity, or satisfaction as change implemented. Nagpifail sila kasi hindi nila ina-expect yung pagbabago. Second, many managers do not keep focus on change because they want to implement the next big idea that comes along. Yun, nandito na nga. Nag-i-implement sila sa next idea. For example, manager ako, nag-implement ako na sa future magta-top 1 tayo. Yun na yung talaga, yung goal ko. Yun na rin yung nasa isip ko na top 1 talaga tayo sa future. Hindi ko inisip na pwedeng may makahigit sa atin na ibang kumpanya. Kaya nagstay lang ako sa goal ko na top 1 tayo. Pero yung nangyari sa future, may isang kumpanya na mas nataasan tayo. Kaya hindi sila nag-change ng implement kasi nakapokus lang sila dun sa next big idea na hindi na sila na baka magkaroon ng changes. Yun lang po. Thank you po.